Hello and welcome to North Country Matters. My name is Donna Seymour. I'm a member of the St. Lawrence County League of Women Voters, one of the civic partners for our show. My guest today is Kathleen Stein, president of the League in St. Lawrence County. Today we're going to talk about a key piece of voter education, how to judge a candidate. Kathy, welcome back to North Country Matters. Today's conversation will, we hope, help voters sort through all the messaging they're being bombarded with by candidates at both the local and the state level.
Yes, elections present voters with important choices, whether it's a local race that will affect your community or a state or national race that will change the direction of your state or of the country. It's a time to consider the issues you care about and to decide which candidate you support. And that's not easy these days.
No, in fact, how do voters compare candidates? To be honest, all too often, slogans, name recognition, personality are the only criteria. Sometimes it's difficult to move past the candidate's image to the substance of the campaign. However, it is possible to do that, and we have some suggestions for you.
Yeah, we have some suggestions of things to as many of them as you can do, or even if you just do try out one thing, it's going to help make you a better informed voter. First of all, decide what it is you're looking for in a candidate. Candidates can be judged in two ways: the positions they take on issues and the leadership qualities and experience that they would bring to the office. Your first step in picking a candidate is to decide the issues you care about and the qualities you want in a leader. When you consider issues, think about community or national problems that you would like people in government to address. Also consider what party the candidate belongs to and what position the party has taken on the issues that you care about. For example, you might be interested in national security, government funding for student loans, the environment, unemployment, immigration. There's all kinds of issues that you need to sort out for yourself. And then what are the characteristics you want in an effective leader? Do you look for intelligence, honesty, good communication skills? What else?
So, number two is gather materials about the candidates. Put together information about each of the candidates that you are looking at. Collect any records you can find. Sources of information that you might want to choose include things like websites of candidates, political parties, social media, campaign literature, direct mail letters, credible sources of information. And this can be newspapers, televisions, internet, or radio reports. Television and radio ads can also give you information, and particularly in the candidates' speeches and their position statements, because that often fleshes out more than you can get in a brief radio or newspaper ad.
Exactly. The next thing to do is then evaluate their stance. You gather your information, then you evaluate them. And also, you need to ask questions of the material. Do the materials you're finding give you an overall impression of the candidate? What specific conclusions can you draw about the candidate's stance on issues? Consider the context of the various materials, especially speeches and position statements that you have found. Can you tell whether the candidates are speaking truthfully about their positions or if they're just tailoring their message for a particular audience that happens to be in front of them? Keep in mind that social media platforms are often a poor source of information, and they can be influenced and hacked by outside players who want to steer voters away from one candidate and to another for their own purposes. Deliberate disinformation can easily create false impressions about a candidate or an issue or affect an election. We know that foreign countries have even created false grassroots groups to influence US elections. Let the social media consumer beware should always be your motto.
That's for sure, especially in this day and age, as we watch what's happening on a national level in particular. Another thing that you can do is you can learn about a candidate's leadership abilities. Deciding if a candidate will be a good leader is difficult. How can you know if someone will be honest, open, or able to act under pressure if elected to office? Do the campaign materials emphasize images or do they emphasize issues? There are some ways to read between the lines as you evaluate a candidate's leadership. Look at their background and their experience. Are they prepared to do the job? Observe their campaigns. Do they give speeches to diverse groups, even groups that may disagree with the candidate's views on issues? Do they accept invitations to debate? Do the campaigns emphasize media events where the campaign candidates are seen but not heard? Here's an example. There's a ribbon cutting ceremony to open a new bridge, rather than the candidate talking about transportation issues.
Yes, that's a good one. All image and no substance. Okay, another thing, this is our fifth tip. You might want to learn how other people view the candidate, people you know, I mean. Now that you've accumulated information from campaigns and other sources, you might want to learn the opinions of people that you trust. Their opinions could help you clarify your own views, but don't discount your own judgments. After all, you are the one who knows what's important to you. Seek opinions of others in your community who keep track of political campaigns and policy issues. Consider interviewing 3 people who are not family members to find out which candidate they support and why. Learn what has shaped their political opinions. Was it an event, an idea, or a program proposed by a candidate? Was it a particular issue about which they feel strongly? Is their support based on long-standing party loyalty? Also look into endorsements. These are ways for interest groups and organizations to give a stamp of approval to a candidate. Endorsements can provide clues to the issues that candidates support. Get a list of endorsements for each candidate. Find out what these groups and individuals stand for and find out exactly why they're endorsing this candidate. These groups are often can be very self-interested, and that can reveal something about the candidate that they accept this endorsement.
That's very true. Another important way to find out about candidates is to look at who is supporting them through campaign contributions. Follow the money, as the old saying goes.
Oh
For
yeah.
federal candidates, you can go to the Federal Elections Commission to find out about who has donated to candidates. And at the state and local level, you can go to the New York State Board of Elections. They also keep track of that kind of campaign filing, which is required by law. So where do the candidates get the funds to finance their campaigns? Do they use their own money? Do they raise funds from wealthy donors or small contributors or from political action committees? PACs, as they are known, are groups formed to raise and distribute money to candidates. Many types of information about campaign contributions must be reported to the government, and they are watched by the press. Every so often, you will see a press report about the recent donations to candidates, and that can give you an idea about who is funding these folks. So learn about money in politics and read stories on campaign finance. How contributors can affect a candidate's conduct in office is another clue. You might want to analyze the incumbent's voting record on issues important to the PACs or other campaign contributors.
Yes, since campaigns are so expensive these days, donors have come to have a really disproportionate influence, unfortunately, in our political system. Also, you might want to evaluate opinion polls. We know that polls are sometimes not reliable, but still they're an interesting source of information. They're conducted by a variety of groups to evaluate public support for different candidates. Polls reveal who is leading at a certain point in the race. This information can be crucial for a candidate because it can increase support and contributions from people who want to be on the winning side. As you read the polls, ask these questions. Who sponsored the poll? Was the poll produced by a trusted and independent group? Were all the figures in the poll released, even unfavorable data, from the point of view of whoever was sponsoring it? Were questions slanted or unbiased? How were respondents selected? Were they selected in such a way to include all segments of the population or just a certain group? How many people were in the poll sample?
Those are all good points, and I think all of us who have ever taken an opinion poll understand what it means to get what's called a push poll, where the only possible answers are ones that give the candidate the results that they want, and that is not helpful to anybody at all, because you want an unbiased poll in the same way that you want unbiased media reporting about candidates. So
Exactly.
another thing that you can do is you can see through the distortion techniques. Sometimes candidates use language so masterfully that it distorts the truth in ways that are difficult for even the most careful observer to see. Compare what a candidate may have said in the primary to what they are now saying in the general election. Have they slanted their words based on the voters they are talking to in those two separate elections? And remember that while all answers are responses, not all responses are answers. Does the candidate answer the question that was asked or substitute in a soundbite designed to mask their actual positions to avoid the question? I think a good example here is a question on gun violence and the problems that society has with gun violence, and the candidate only wants to talk about the Second Amendment, which really is a diversion from the point of the original question.
Yes, exactly. And some candidates are very, very maddening in their ability to deflect from the question. The next tip is the question thing to look for is the candidate available to the public and to the media. In recent years, candidates have sometimes been unwilling to meet with groups of mixed voters. They've instead preferred to talk only to like-minded voters of their own party or only at campaign events that are designed to raise money from a friendly audience. Additionally, more candidates, unfortunately, are refusing to talk to local media outlets, claiming they are unbiased or unfriendly. Voters need more than just 30-second sound bites from carefully crafted campaign ads that are designed to sway opinions. Also notice if the candidate spends time talking more about the opposition than about their own plans and ideas for office, once they are in office. Negative campaigning sets the wrong tone needed for civil and civic discourse, because after the election, the work of governing must occur. And one of the problems that we have gotten ourselves into in this country is with so much partisan bickering during campaigns and whatnot, government becomes completely paralyzed once the governing process needs to occur, and it's just not happening.
Kathy, you make a good point about that. And I think the other thing that people need to be aware of is that when a candidate charges the opposition with flip-flopping, that doesn't help, because often if a candidate does not change their opinion with new facts, that's a problem. And by charging that someone is flip-flopping, it may in fact be that they have new information and that they have their position or their opinion has actually evolved, which is the kind of thing that a good candidate is willing to do. They're willing to take in new information and change when the situation changes.
Yes, exactly. People, being held to rigid, positions and that kind of thing. This is a prescription for disaster when it comes to governing, when it comes to dealing with reality. So, one way to be a responsible, with we have the privilege of voting here, and one way to do it responsibly is by doing our homework ahead of time. And that means now. Make democracy work. Vote.
Yes, and it is hard work and it does take time, but it's ultimately worth it, because the people that we elect at the local level have the most impact on our lives as we live them every day. The people we elect at the state and federal level also have impact on our lives and also on the direction of the country. So these are things that we can't take for granted, and we need to really do our homework, because who we send to office is going to affect how we live.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you, Kathy, for coming in today and doing this. I hope we've provided some good information for people. Again, you don't have to do all of this, but just be thinking about these things as you are listening to what the candidates are saying, and it will help you when you get ready to go to the voting booth and actually make your choices. A reminder to our viewers that you have 3 ways to vote this fall: by absentee ballot, during the 9 days of early voting, or in person at your local polling place. Remember that elections are decided by the people who vote, so make sure your vote counts. These conversations are a production of North Country Matters. The show is a civic collaboration between the St. Lawrence County League of Women Voters and the Potsdam Public Library. Remember, our North Country matters, and so does your vote.